Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here on this week. This is episode 352. Got a lot of stuff to go over and focus mainly on the big Obi-Wan announcement, but also the topic that I'm going to get into later, dealing with Force Ghost a little bit, in particular, one in particular that was somewhat revealed out there that hopefully it's not spoiling too much for people that don't want to know, but I'll warn you as we get towards the end of this thing. But first up, wanted to honor my Patreon duties now, because I did launch a Patreon last week, like I mentioned. And thankfully, we've got somebody that signed up. Again, thank you very much. So, one of the things I wanted to do is acknowledge anybody that joins. So here is that acknowledgement. And Inside the Force, our first Patreon is Michael Martz. So thanks, Michael, for joining and supporting the show. Huge thank you for being the first. I'm going to make sure you're taken care of and make sure that you get everything you're wanting and needed out of this. We've got we got 4 tiers to join. Mostly has to do with getting early access to shows like this. We'll post it on Patreon first before we put it out in the public. But there's also a lot more shows we're going to be doing as far as Beyond the Saga and Council Session and stuff like that. So, and some of that stuff is only going to be on Patreon. So, if you guys want to get more of that stuff, then please join, support. If you are happy with just getting what we give you free wise on the podcast feeds and on YouTube, then please subscribe there and do that. So, either way, just love the support, no matter what it is. And then, of course, feedback is always great. Want to do more interactions on there as well. Did get a comment. I'll skip to that real fast. Did get a comment from one of my big YouTube supporters. When I get there, Thrawn Addict mentioned saying, do another movie commentary, and I'm in. Well, you're on. We'll get some movie commentaries going. We were talking about that last week. Definitely got to, do the ones that we haven't done yet, which I think were Solo 8 and 9. Unfortunately, we did do an episode 8 commentary, but there was audio issues with that, so it never got released. We did it right before episode 9 was coming out, but now it would be really cool to go back. I actually want to go back and do commentaries on all the movies again, even the ones we've already done, because there's a different perception a little bit now with episodes 8 and 9 out, the whole saga completed. So and it's been 3 years, I think, since we've done it, so it'd be good to go back. So we are talking about doing that, and we will be doing that. Probably won't be a Patreon exclusive, just because I want to get that out there, but it definitely will be on Patreon first. So, I'm still learning Patreon, still kind of working my way through it. I know there's a merch store on there that I'm going to be working on this week, getting people that sign up some exclusive merch, and then also there's like goals that you can set that I'm thinking about doing. So things like that I'll keep kind of playing around with and learning this thing. Again, this is new to me. I haven't messed with Patreon, so I will continue to also refine the tiers, I think, too, because as I do more and get into this more, and hopefully if anybody signs up more, then I want to make sure I'm giving you guys more than what you expect, basically, something like that. So. Anyway, again, thank you, Michael Martz, for joining, and we will continue to recognize our patrons as they come aboard. All right, moving on to the big news that got dropped, I think yesterday or 2 days ago maybe. Obi-Wan Kenobi himself, Ewan McGregor, did a little message that hit the airwaves, and basically he announced that Obi-Wan is delaying the premiere by 2 days. So instead of Wednesday, May 25th, it is coming out May 27th on that Friday. But he countered the bad news of the 2-day delay with good news that we are getting the first 2 episodes that day. So basically we're getting a movie, I would say, in the first premiere, because each episode is probably going to be, I would think, 45 to 60 minutes. So hopefully we're getting about 2 hours or an hour and 45 minutes worth of content. So it's basically going to be a movie premiere, in my opinion, which leaves 4 episodes left. So meaning that the series is going to wrap up 1 week sooner than we expected. So if it premieres on the 27th, then 3rd, 10th, so June 24th seems to be the now expected finale. And moving this to Fridays, I guess just makes complete sense, since Marvel has been releasing also on Wednesdays. So now you can have 2 shows running maybe at the same time, Marvel on Wednesdays and Star Wars on Fridays. I think Moon Knight just premiered. That's 6 episodes. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that wraps May the 4th. And I don't know when the next one is premiering. I think Ms. Marvel is the next one. It doesn't seem like that's going to premiere during Obi-Wan. So again, not quite sure why the shift into Fridays, but I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't really tell you. Maybe I guess there's some hope maybe that they'll premiere Bad Batch at the same time. Maybe during that run, started that run, and put that on Wednesdays. That was kind of the thought process. In fact, my thought process at first was the Bad Batch would be on Fridays, because you were keeping the live action stuff on Wednesdays. But a report also came out that as far as statistics for Disney Plus and the Disney Plus shows, Mandalorian obviously has been the most watched show on Disney Plus. In fact, it destroys all the Marvel ones, apparently. Book of Boba Fett is kind of landing in that zone of the Marvel series right now. So by far, the Star Wars properties, I think, are what's driving a lot of the Disney Plus views. So I think I really think that they're thinking that they can't put this out fast enough. So maybe they are going to start doubling down on Star Wars content for Disney Plus. Just it would make sense if those are the most viewed. Why wouldn't you put more of them on there? Because right now it does feel like you have a lot more in the Marvel in the works, with Ms. Marvel coming and She-Hulk, Secret Invasion, and Armor Wars and all that. I mean, you got I Am Groot. I mean, you got a lot of Marvel shows, more so than I feel like with Star Wars, even though we're talking about a lot of Star Wars, with Bad Batch, Andor still coming, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, but, it's not like they're all coming this year. It's being spread out, even with Bad Batch possibly being moved to next year, 2023. So, we'll see. I mean, we'll just see. Probably going to get a lot of announcements here maybe on May the 4th, probably not, but more so at Celebration at the end of May, which is also a little weird to me that they're debuting Obi-Wan while everyone's at Celebration. Not everyone, of course, but a majority of the Star Wars fan base, the big fan base, diehards, I guess I would say, they are going to be at Celebration that Friday. So that's what actually made it interesting, was that, Obi-Wan was going to debut that Wednesday going into Celebration. But now I guess maybe they expected that Wednesday everybody be traveling and they won't get as much views right away, which is ridiculous because they'll find a way. People are going to find a way to watch this thing. But, now they can have probably a watch party that day at Celebration, which is pretty expected. They do a lot of debuts there, and I remember I watched the season 2 premiere of Rebels at Celebration months. That was like in July and or June or something like that, June or July, and it didn't air until September on television. So I had already seen, the debut of Vader fighting Ezra and Kanan. It was pretty awesome. But it's a little different, because it'll already be out that night before. They may do something that day, I guess. Ooh, that's actually probably what they'll do. That opening Thursday, they'll probably have some kind of premiere for Obi-Wan there. So people will see it first before people see it on Friday that aren't at Celebration. That's probably what's going to happen. So, anyway, May 27th, we'll be talking about it for sure. Cannot wait for that. Okay, another little thing, just a reminder, I've talked about it, Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga actually debuts April 5th, so next week, early next week. Get your pre-orders in and get that. I can't wait. I'm going to get that and start playing that game. Very excited about that game. My daughters, who are younger who are 12 and 8, they're not even interested in it, which is crazy. They said they're going to sit there and watch me play it. So I am going to play it. I'm going to play a lot of it. I like those Lego games. So that comes out Tuesday, April 5th, if you forgot. All right. Speaking of Celebration, a little more announcement on some guests. Giannis Sonotomo is going to be there, who played Chewbacca. Giancarlo Esposito will be there as well. You've got, let's see. You got Ahmed Abtashi. Sorry if I pronounced his name wrong. He's the Dr. Pershing in the Star Wars Mandalorian. And you've got the publishing, the writing geniuses of Claudia Gray, Justine Ireland, Daniel Jose Older, Kevin Scott, Charles Soule, the people involved in the High Republic. They will be there, which is incredible, which is pretty cool because, we haven't had a celebration yet that since the High Republic has been out. So very cool. Again, I wish I was going. I'm not going this time. Very cool to see, the reaction there and the following, how big of a following the High Republic actually has, because I feel like it's growing and should be pretty cool to see a lot of those people getting, I'm sure there's going to be a big panel about it. There's going to probably be a little more reveals of what's to come in the High Republic era. Hopefully there is a live action series. Hopefully there is a game, something beyond the publishing side of it. That will be incredible to see. So anyway, a lot more announcements I'm sure coming in the next month or two. I mean, there's only 2 months until Celebration happens. So will be, I'm sure, a lot more announcements coming for that. So Star Wars, so keep an eye on that celebration. StarWarsCelebration.com is their main site. And then, let's see, then the other big news is Carl Weathers apparently tweeted out that they have wrapped filming on season 3 of The Mandalorian. Interesting, because they apparently started this towards the end of last year. And so, 3 or 4 months later, fully wrapped. That is going to be a pretty tight timeline to get something, although definitely possible, to get something done and debuted by the end of this year. So I'll be curious to know if it does debut. I feel like that's what they're aiming for. Very similar to a Book of Boba Fett, probably a mid-December premiere for season 3, and then those episodes will filter into 2023. So I guess it does look like, Obi-Wan and Andor this year, and then Mandalorian basically going into 2023. Where the Bad Batch lands, again, that's still the big question. I still think they need to, it'd be just good for them to put it out there, even though if it overlaps with another series, because again, Star Wars content right now is king on Disney Plus. So that would make more sense than to wait until next year, because then that was just a 2-year gap between seasons. Just doesn't make sense. Basically there's a 2-year gap now with Mandalorian, but we did get the Book of Boba Fett, which is like 2.5. So there was something there, not just, emptiness. So I think they got to do that. I think they got to rethink that and put Book of Boba Fett, or I keep saying Book of Boba Fett, put Bad Batch out there, because it has to be finished. Those animation shows are done years in, a year or two in advance. So I think they're just thinking about the best place to place it. Just give it to us at the same time, man. Just give it to us. So that's it with the news side of things. Again, just a quick rundown of releases coming up this week. Also, April 5th, Queen's Hope. Cannot wait for that. The 3rd book in the E.K. Johnston series of books around Padme. Queen's Hope comes. I'm going to start listening to that right away. Then, of course, you've got your Brotherhood novel, May 10th. There's actually an excerpt that just got dropped on StarWars.com from that book, seemingly introducing the first meeting between Obi-Wan and Asajj Ventress. So very interesting. It seems like it's right at the early stages of the Clone Wars. Of course, the book apparently contains the scene referenced in episode 3 of Anakin and Obi-Wan at Keda Nemoria. So we'll see as far as how that goes and what happens there. But apparently Asajj Ventress is in this book, so which I love it. So Brotherhood, May 10th. Shadow of the Sith, which I will be talking briefly about here again. The cover for that was released recently, but they also have an excerpt out there. That's what I'm going to be talking about here in a second. Padawan, The Princess and the Scoundrel, August 16th. Padawan, July 26th. Then you got a couple High Republic ones towards the end of this year. Convergence is on October 4th, and Path of Deceit is November 1st. Comics. Let's see, comics. You got a lot coming out here in April. Bounty Hunters 22 next week, April 6th. Star Wars 22, Darth Vader 22 on April 13th. The Halcyon Legacy number 3, Crimson Reign number 4 on the 20th. You got Han Solo Chewbacca number 2, Dr. Aphra 20, and Star Wars 23 on April 27th. And then on May the 4th, Obi-Wan number 1, Chrysanthemum number 1, and the final Crimson Reign book number 5 comes out May the 4th. So I'm definitely behind on the Crimson Reign. I need to get reading on that. Remember, that's the second trilogy of Charles Soule's trilogy series that he's writing. He's got his third one starting this summer. Some good comics out there. I actually need to get caught up on a lot of those because part of my Patreon is going to be some more weekly kind of reviews and thoughts on these comics. We're going to still cover a lot of the volumes, obviously, on Beyond the Saga, but on Patreon, I'm going to start putting some short weekly comic reviews on those. Okay, so kind of breezing through this episode a little bit. Might not be as long as I normally talk, which is good. But I just wanted to comment on this main topic here. So again, it's out there. There's an excerpt from the book Shadow of the Sith that's out there. Of course, Shadow of the Sith is about that story about Luke and Lando basically searching for Exegol and running into that Sith assassin, Oshi. So the big thing, though, that came out in this excerpt, which again, spoilers, if you don't at all want to know, but it's very interesting because I gotta just mention it. Here we go. I'm going to mention it. Okay. So in the excerpt, apparently there is a how do I say this? There is the return of Anakin Skywalker in, of course, Force Ghost form. So I'm just going to kind of read a little bit about it. So here's what the excerpt says. It says Luke is basically getting attacked by some Force wraiths as he's searching for the Wayfinder. And I'm going to just jump in right here. It says the wraith attacked 9 shadow blades held by shadow arms cutting down at speed. And that was when a new light appeared. Not the white flash of lightning or the wraith blades as they were lit by the unholy light. Not the green glow of Luke's lightsaber, illuminating the ashy ground like a green flashlight. No, this light was pale blue. It shimmered in the air, striking a little. It swept down, throwing the attackers off in one smooth movement. It was a lightsaber, the blue blade and strong. The hilt was transparent, nothing but a blue glow held in a transparent blue hand. Luke fell backward onto his elbows and grasped at the pain in his joints and also in sheer surprise at the sight before him. Standing between himself and the race was another figure, a man in flowing pale robes, his back to Luke, his head hidden under a voluminous hood. The entire figure glowed like soft electricity, bright in this world of endless night. When the lightning flashed, Luke could see the 9 solid rays through the form of the man who stood between them and their quarry. Luke's mind raced as he tried to identify the spirit of the Force who had arrived to protect him. Ben? No, it wasn't Ben. The robe, the man's form was the spectral being lifted his lightsaber, holding it high above his head, the blade parallel to the ground. For the first time, the race seemed to take note of their enemy. They backed away, 9 forms huddling together, blades lowered. They were screaming from their blank, bandaged faces, although Luke wasn't sure whether it was a real sound or just an echo inside his head. It was hard to concentrate on what he was seeing. The way the Force reverberated around the figure in blue, his entire vision seemed to buckle around him. The wraiths continued to back away, and then they vanished, their shadow shapes evaporating into dust that spun away on the last eddy of the dying wind. For a moment, all was still. Then the blue figure turned around, his lightsaber extinguished. Luke pushed himself onto his elbows. He blinked, It couldn't be. It couldn't be. The blue figure lifted his hood back to reveal the strong, sharp face of a young man, his gaze intense beneath a furrowed brow that was bisected by straight vertical scar. His thick hair was shoulder length and had a slight wave to it. Anakin Skywalker reached out his hand. Luke took it, and everything went white. That's the end of the excerpt. So it kind of leaves you, obviously, on that cliffhanger of what Anakin Skywalker just showed up in front of Luke. Now, this is a big question mark that a lot of people I feel like have been talking about, including myself, on if ever, Anakin reappeared in front of Luke since Return of the Jedi, because he sees him in Return of the Jedi, right? Well, we apparently got our answer. Now, was he dreaming? I guess there's a possibility, but I can't remember how the full scope of the excerpt goes. But apparently he's searching for this wayfinder and encounters these Sith wraiths, or these wraiths, and Anakin basically steps in and saves him. Now, the curious part is that, he ignites a lightsaber still, meaning that the lightsaber is a force ghost also, which that part is a little strange for me. It's one thing to do what Yoda did in The Last Jedi, and call down lightning to, destroy that tree temple. It's one thing to do that. It's another thing to actually have a Force Ghost lightsaber, I guess you can call it. So I'm not sure about that. But the fact that Anakin shows up in front of Luke seems like it's definitely the first time since Return of the Jedi, with how surprised Luke sounds in this excerpt. Anyway, I wanted to just bring that up and talk about a couple points, because I think with Anakin's Force Ghost, this again, opens up a lot of just discussions and questions on what a Force Ghost can do and what a Force Ghost is capable of, how often they can show up, because, we definitely finally got a explanation of the Force Ghost in a way when Lucasfilm revealed that not everybody becomes a Force Ghost, right? That you have to basically train to be able to live beyond the living Force and into the cosmic Force. So, Qui-Gon apparently was the first one to discover how to do this, although he didn't complete his training. Then again, in a certain point of view novel, I think he does actually manifest himself for the first time and reveal himself to Obi-Wan. But either way, Yoda learns it. We see in the Clone Wars that process a little bit of how to do that. Basically, it's basically defeating the demons inside of you, and you're able to kind of fully understand the Force. And he trains Obi-Wan to be able to do that. That's why Obi-Wan is able to do that for Luke. But, it's always been kind of a question of how Anakin is able to do it. Then you've got Leia at the end of episode 9 now, and Luke. So they apparently have trained in there. Ben disappears also, but we don't see him as a Force Ghost. Does that mean he becomes a Force Ghost as well? I'm assuming so. So it's like, the rules probably have changed. I'm sure Disney maybe has changed the rules. Maybe Filoni has helped change the rules on how and what it means to become a Force Ghost. Maybe we'll get that explanation with this appearance, because it's just interesting that they could physically be involved in the living Force as well, right? That's interesting to know. that they can, again, we've seen it a little bit. Like if you recall in Return of the Jedi when Obi-Wan is talking to Luke, I mean, he sits down, on a tree log or something, so they are able to physically be interactive with the physical world still. So I guess if they can bring their lightsabers that side of the Force, then I guess they can use them, which is pretty interesting. Because, it's like the question always comes up to why didn't they do this before? Why didn't they come and help? Why didn't Obi-Wan actually take form and help? I know he says I can't interfere, but it's like, why not? Why not help Luke in fighting Vader and the Emperor in Return of the Jedi, or even Yoda? It's like, just appear and kill the Emperor. I don't know. It opens a lot of doors up that, a lot of questions, so I don't know if there's ever going to be a definitive answer for Force Ghost, but we could always hope. The big point that I wanted to make about Anakin, though, is I think, man, we're getting Anakin back in a sense, right, with Obi-Wan. Hayden Christensen, who played Anakin in live action, is coming back to Star Wars after all these years, 20 years or so. And he is, as far as I could tell, he's getting welcomed back with open arms. People miss him. People are realizing that he did a great job playing Anakin. He's going to be Vader now, in the suit and everything like that. So we are getting a reintroduction to Anakin Skywalker in a way. And now this book coming out makes complete sense also to have Anakin, because again, he's in the minds of everybody with the Obi-Wan series. But my only thing, and me and Casey have talked about this over the years with the publishing side of Star Wars, is can you introduce and discuss or have events in the publishing world that are so massive that a lot of people that don't read the books would miss out. And significant events, not just, big characters or deaths or anything like that. Because, for example, Asajj Ventress, spoilers, but again, I've talked about this before. She dies in the book Dark Disciple. She's become a major character with Clone Wars. And, if you've just watched Clone Wars, you don't know what happens to Asajj Ventress after Clone Wars. So, or by the end of Clone Wars, because she dies before Clone Wars ends in the book. So those were unaired episodes, right? So we would have seen that. But because the show got canceled and the novel came out, basically, publishing what those episodes were, we ended up getting her death in a novel. That is a pretty big, significant scene, in my opinion. Aftermath, the Aftermath series, with the whole war not fully ending until Aftermath, a year after Return of the Jedi, because the war didn't end at Return of the Jedi. The war ended after the Battle of Jakku a year later. That's a pretty significant event, in my opinion, also, that's in the novels. So a lot of people that don't read that are still in the assumption that Return of the Jedi was the last of the Civil War between the Rebel Alliance, and the Empire. But it actually didn't finish then. It finished a year later. And of course, now we have this 30-year gap between 6 and 7 that we're starting to get stories of that are answering a lot of questions that we had from the sequel trilogy. But now you have this Anakin Skywalker appearance. To me, that's just a massive event, a massive story, and something that I wish we would have seen in live action, on this, possibly this Luke Skywalker series that, we all would hope for. But this is interesting too, because, this is, I don't know the timeline fully yet when this happens. I'm guessing it happens closer to episode 7, just because on the cover, I mean, Luke doesn't look like he did like in The Mandalorian. He looks more like he did in those flashbacks with Ben. You know, when the temple got destroyed, like he's got the semi beard and the ruffled hair. So part of me thinks that this is maybe, I don't know, 5 to 10 years prior to episode 7. So, you know, it's just one of the things where, like, could you actually do this series with Mark Hamill and Billy Dee? Even though Billy Dee it's harder for him to get around, but you know, you could get an actor to play him and then, you know, do your deep fake on his face. Because I more so probably think that this is more a Luke Skywalker story than it is a Lando. I know Lando's helping him out, but how cool would it have been to see this as a short series and then get Hayden come back and play that Force Ghost? I mean, that would have been just a massive moment for Star Wars fans of both generations, right? The old trilogy generation and the prequel generation, and have that connection to the sequel trilogy because it's in that timeline leading up to that. I know that would have been a hard thing to pull off, but again, I just, when I think about these big events and incidences that happen in the publishing side of things, I wish some of these happened more so in the live action so more fans can experience it. Because if you're not following the comics and the books as much, you're just going to miss out and not be up to speed on a lot of this stuff. Of course, you listen to podcasts like this, you know, we'll talk about that kind of stuff and you will be up to speed on it, but to experience it yourself, you know, reading it, and because, you know, people that don't watch or listen to podcasts and they're just consuming Star Wars content, this would be a big surprise if you weren't reading the books. So that's kind of my feeling on it. I just think that that's a pretty significant event, and I hope as I get into the book, there is a little more explanation of what a Force Ghost can do and the meanings behind it. Now, that part, maybe it won't come in this book because it is such a big discussion and a big reveal that maybe they are saving something like that for maybe a live action series or something like that to explain how a Force Ghost works. And maybe we'll get an Obi-Wan. I guess that's possible. Maybe we'll get some kind of explanation, but I doubt it. That would be really cool if, but see, at that point, there are no Force Ghosts, right? I mean, maybe Qui-Gon, there's rumors that Qui-Gon could show up or at least talk to Obi-Wan. That would be pretty cool. But I don't believe he has the ability to become a Force Ghost yet at this point. Like I said, I think he does eventually reveal himself around A New Hope, you know, around that time. But this being earlier, I don't think that happens this early. So anyway, I thought that was just a fantastic, interesting excerpt that they put out there to let everybody know that has happened, and we'll see what comes of it. That was just pretty cool, and I just wanted to mention a couple things about it. But anyway, Shadow of the Sith comes out June 28th, so that's a big storyline of a book that I can't wait to get into. So anyway, there you go. That will do it. Let me just wrap up again, like I said, with some comments. Let's see. Thrawn Attic on my last episode, 351, said sad news about Bad Batch Season 2. Absolutely. Don't see why any animated show can't run alongside any of the live action shows. Really excited for Queen's Hope books, such as delay on that one. And then that's when he mentions, I'll check out Patreon, do another commentary, and I'm in. I told you I'm in. I'll get some commentaries done. And yeah, I agree with you on side, you know, Bad Batch, animated live action, they can go. Jojo Jar Jar said, awesome show and episode on our last Dark Knowledge. That's a fun show to do. Me and Corey. The Sith Order, we did that one. Coming soon, we're going to be talking about the Rule of Two, of course. That's a big part of the Sith and the dark side, so we will get into that here soon. Thrawn Addict said, read the Book of the Sith book recently and had a great detail about the history of the Sith. It is considered legends, but hope they make it canon. Yes, I do too. Definitely. Thrawn Hag also says, great episode, loving this show. I do think the Rule of Two is very flawed to everyone but Palpatine due to him maneuvering politically and wanted all the power to himself. But don't see how any other Sith were planning to take revenge with just 2 Sith. Yes, totally agree. And that's part of the stuff that we're going to break down when we go through the Rule of Two here soon. So, yeah, hopefully we talk about some of that stuff for you and get into that. So, anyway, there you go. Thanks for listening and commenting and watching and subscribing. Please, we're slowly ticking up on the YouTube subscribers, which is great. So, I'll keep putting them on there and we'll see what happens. Again, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/InsideTheForce if you're interested in that. Let me know, and let me know what you think about it, comments wise. I mean, I'll listen to anything, about the tiers and, if there's other content that you're thinking that you want me to do, I'll try to accommodate. So let me know. It'd be great. Of course, check out the Mandalorian podcast. We will be covering in depth on the Obi-Wan series once that starts. A little bit on a hiatus right now, obviously, because there's no shows to cover. But of course, come back here every week for Inside the Force. Every week we'll be also releasing, our additional shows, Council Sessions Beyond the Saga, Dark Knowledge. Got a couple Masters of the Orders coming as well. Got some interviews lined up that you really, really enjoy. Again, extra episodes of those will be on Patreon by themselves. So if you want to watch those, go check out Patreon. As always, really, really appreciate it. We're on all the podcast feeds and on YouTube. Like and subscribe there, please, and share us with your friends and family. And we will be back next week. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Take care. We are in April now. Cannot believe it already. Have a great time, everybody out there. Take care of yourselves. Be good. May the Force be with you.